As a way of centering our time, I want to share with you Psalms 42. Psalms 42 and 43 was originally one psalm. It was broken up into two, and I will share the first part of that. Just like a deer that craves streams of water, my whole being craves you, God. My whole being thirsts for God, for the living God. When will I come and see God's face? My tears have been my food both day and night, as people constantly question me, where is your God now? But I remember these things as I bear my soul, how I made my way to the mighty one's abode, to God's own house, with joyous shouts and thanksgiving song, a huge crowd celebrating the festival. Why, I ask myself, are you so depressed? Why are you so upset inside? Hope in God, because I will again give him thanks, my saving presence and my God. My whole being is depressed. That's why I remember you from the land of Jordan and Hermon from Mount Mizar. Deep call to deep at the noise of your waterfall, as your massive waves surge against me. By day, the Lord commands his faithful love. By night, his song is with me, a prayer to the God of my life. I will say to God, my solid rock, why haven't you forgotten me? Why do I have to walk around sad and oppressed by enemies? Why, with my bones crushed, my foes make fun of me, constantly question me, where's your God now? Why, I ask myself, are you depressed? Why are you so upset inside? Hope in God, because I will again give him thanks, my saving presence and my God. Amen. I want to welcome you to Hobson UMC on YouTube. I am VH Sonny Dixon Jr., and I am in for my weekly conversation with my son Trey as I get ready for this coming Sunday. As it's an opportunity for me to be able to catch up with him and to allow him to kind of put some context and to help me to transition from my time of study and reflecting on the scripture to get ready for my sermon preparation. And so we're delighted that you have chosen to spend some time with us. It is real, it's meaningful to us when we hear from you and you let us know that there was something we said or something, that an opinion that we expressed that touched you at a particular time, particularly when you say that it was a word that was one that was encouragement to you when you may have been going through something, or one that challenged you to look at the scripture in a different way. I'm always maintaining that the scripture is a living document, and that we keep it alive by our discussion and our reflection and sharing with one another. And so we're glad that you have joined us. It's something we started, I guess, almost a couple of years ago, and it's something that we have maintained, and we're thankful. It is an opportunity, as I say, not only for us to catch up, but just to be able to reach out and to say, thank you for listening, thank you for your support, for your prayers, for us in the ministry here at Hobson, and we are truly grateful that you include us. I know that there are a lot of options out there, and for us to be one that you have chosen means a great deal to us. So thank you. An important time whenever we gather here at Hobson is a time for sharing our joys and our concerns. Those are the things that we share with one another, that we know that we truly need God's involvement in what is going on in our lives. It may be, the prayers that sometimes are difficult for us to carry alone, and we believe that in sharing them with one another and sharing them within a community, that it gives us an opportunity to be strengthened in the midst of what it is that we're going through, and also to give God some glory and God some praise for what God is doing in our lives. One of the important things that have come during our time of sharing that kind of started out early, we would celebrate birthdays. We didn't have a lot of birthdays, and we would add to that list, maybe relatives and that were distant because we just wanted to have a reason to sing our birthday song and to celebrate. And now people just call and let us know that birthdays are coming up so that we can do our birthday shout-outs. This week, we have some all birthdays are important because we celebrate that 365 days around the sun. But we have a special birthday this week. We got Brittany Mason's mama's birthday is this week, and so we want to send a birthday shout out to her. Young brother I am very fond of, Justin Allen's birthday, dear friend Phil Treller's birthday, Erica Conrad, Weta Yarber, and Kathy Hines Mays, Pamela Robinson, Erica Allen, Juanita Ramses down in Houston, Michelle Wilkins, Dr. George Brooks, Hap Hughley, Dred Scott, Gina Holmes, Aaron Wilson, Janice Woodard, Lee Millette, Carolyn Blackwell, Ty Ramos, Helen Adams, Mark Brooks, Brian Wilkins, Bill McCloskey, Coach Maurice Fitzgerald, still call him Coach even though he's retired, Victor Wynn, Gail Ferguson, Sonia Fanning, Ben Jordan, my brother Barry Barlow, and Kyrie Northcross. I want to send a birthday shout out to each of them. As we gather tonight, are offering up prayers for Tony Woods' father, William Griffith Sr. He's very ill and is in need of our prayers, and so we're praying. We're praying for that family and praying for him. Also, are offering up prayers of condolences to our DS, Pat Frudenthal, celebrated the life of her mother this week, Christine Frudenthal, and just a long life. And but still, we offer prayers of condolences and comfort for that family, and then ask for prayers for Etta Carson Bell, whose father died this past Sunday, and be celebrating his life this weekend, William Carson, and so we ask for prayers for them. Continue to be in prayer for a couple of members here in the congregation who are just dealing with some just some pain, just asking for prayers for Janet DuBois and for Benita Collin and Bernard. Just be in prayer for them for healing. And for all of those who this week are just dealing with this heat that we are experiencing, and we're praying for people to stay cool and protect themselves in the midst of all that's going on. As I say, if you have prayers that you want us to be in prayer, you want me to be in prayer for, please let me know. You can send them to me via Facebook, text message, email, give me a call, however it is, so that we can be in prayer. Because in our praying, that we're also saying to God, we're asking God to find ways to use us to be instruments of how we may be used to answer those prayers, of how we may be there to be supportive of those who are part of our community. Our reading for this week, which is the second Sunday after Pentecost, we are back in Luke's Gospel, and we'll be reading Luke, the 8th chapter. Be reading verses 26 through 39, and I'll be using the Common English Bible translation. Jesus and his disciples sailed to the Gerasene land, which is across the lake from Galilee. As soon as Jesus got out of the boat, a certain man met him. The man was from the city and was possessed by demons. For a long time he had lived among the tombs, naked and homeless. When he saw Jesus, he shirked and fell down before him. And then he shouted, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, don't torture me." He said this because Jesus had already commanded the unclean spirits to come out of him. Many times it had been taken possessions of him, so he would be bound with his leg irons and chains and placed under guard. But he would break his restraints, and the demons would force him into the wilderness. Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "Legion," he replied, because many demons had entered him. They pleaded with him not to order them back into the abyss. A large herd of pigs were feeding on the hillside. The demons begged Jesus to let them go into the pigs. Jesus gave them permission, and the demons left the man and entered the pigs. The herd rushed down the cliff into the lake and drowned. When those who tended the pigs saw what happened, they ran away and told the story in the city and in the countryside. People came to see what had happened. They came to Jesus and found the man with whom the demons had gone. He was sitting at Jesus' feet, fully dressed and completely sane. They were filled with awe. Those people who had actually seen what had happened told them how the demon-possessed man had been delivered. Then everyone gathered from the region of Gerasene asked Jesus to leave their area because they were overcome with fear. So he got into the boat and returned across the lake. The man from whom the demons had gone begged to come along with Jesus as one of his disciples, and Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return home and tell the story of what God has done for you." So he went throughout the city proclaiming what Jesus had done for him. This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. Well, Trey, getting ready for this coming Sunday. It is the second Sunday after Pentecost. We're back in the book of Luke, and back with one of the stories that when I first started preaching on a regular basis. I had preached some, but in being appointed to Hobson and having the responsibility of preaching every Sunday, or at least making sure that there was at least some attempt for a message every Sunday, I was in the book of Luke, and this was one of the stories that was always one that was both challenging to preach, but at the same time offered so many images that it made it easy to be able to share. And it was a story, I think, that people resonated with, because it was one that they could put themselves in that place, and they could see the activity that was going on, this man of whom we come. What's important for us to note, I mean, and this appears in some form, not exactly the same, but it appears in all of the synoptic gospels, and this one has a little twist. I think early it used to be included with some other verses in chapter 8, so they could kind of put them in contrast. But just before this story, Jesus has calmed the seas. He has spoken to the seas as they're going across the. We know the story of the disciples are in the boat and the storm comes and he speaks to them. And so he has already exhibit to those who are close to him some extraordinary powers of being able just to speak to the events and speak to nature itself, and to be able to for them to submit to his word. And now he is in. It lets us know he is on. He has gone to the other side. So he has gone from an area that was a Jewish area, and now he has gone to a Gentile area, and he's going over. One would think that he's kind of going over just to kind of get away, imagining that he's not going to be, confronting. It'll be an opportunity just for him to, maybe spend some time with the disciples, just kind of do some teaching and catching up and kind of relaxing. But it says that as soon as he gets to the other side, he encounters this man, of whom the story lets us know that he is a man who is possessed by demons. He's a man who is homeless. He lives at the cemetery amongst the tombs. When he ventures into the city and they capture him, they put him in restraints and they try to hold him, but he's just too powerful and he breaks from that. And so he is a man of whom we imagine that most of the city is fearful of in his activities, and this is a man who is walking up to Jesus. One would imagine initially having, kind of putting oneself in that position of thinking, wow, as he's coming to Jesus, he comes asking questions, and I imagine there are probably those who are around thinking, whoa, boy, this man is probably ready to come up and do something, and so we probably need to protect ourselves, probably need to be able to protect Jesus in that. But he comes, and he comes with a question. Now, oftentimes, I've heard, others, preach it, and maybe in the early days I may have done that, but don't pay a lot of attention to the fact that before the man speaks to Jesus, Jesus has already dealt with the demons that the man is dealing with. And so we don't know whether or not it was Jesus having spoken to the demons, whether the demons lead the man to Jesus, or whether it is the man who, realizing that something has happened to him, then approaches Jesus, figuring that, I've been with all of these people, and it has always been the same, and this is the first time that I've ever felt this kind of way. And so this is the new person that's in this whole equation, and let me go and ask him what it is. We don't know that in this story, but I think it is one that is interesting, and I'm kind of thinking a little bit about that for maybe approach of where I may be going on Sunday. But I'm kind of leaning on the fact that when he goes and he asks Jesus what is he going to do with him, that Jesus then in turn says to him, and the only thing to the end, that the only thing that Jesus asks him is, what is your name? Now, thing I think we need to know, we know the story. We know that he says that his Legion is his name because there are many. But I think, particularly in what's going on in our world today, I think we need to know that, as I said, that Jesus is in a Gentile area, and he is in a Gentile area that is occupied by Rome and the Roman authorities, and so it is an oppressed people, and we only can imagine that in this area and in what is going on, that while it says that the man has many demons, we don't know what those demons are, and we don't know what produces the effect that it has or they have on things. Now, we don't tend to think of, these evil spirits are coming on. And I am one, for the most part, that as I've read this story and as I've looked at it, and particularly when I am looking at it in the conditions of where I think this man is and what is going on in and around him during that time, is that the evil forces that have forced this man to respond and to act the way that he does are the kind of systemic oppressions that many of us have seen and experienced in different ways in the last few weeks in our own lives and in our own communities. I can only imagine that as they dealt with him, that we are finding in our own world that people are listening and people are being treated a certain way, and their way of responding to the kind of treatment. Can you imagine? I mean, when you are giving a diet of hate, when you're giving a diet of discourse that we are experiencing in our society tonight, when we're listening to that, I can't help but think of the young man that were in Buffalo, the young man that was in Uvalde, Texas, in their outrage of how it is that they spoke out. In this man that we have in the story, that in listening to, and we don't, as I say, we don't know what they are. I can only imagine that there were those voices that were telling him that he was something that was contrary to who he actually thought that he was. But he had heard those voices so long, he had received that treatment so long, that he had begun to internalize it and had begun to act out of his experiences that he's gone. So when he says that I am legion, he is saying, I have dealt with so many stuff that you just cannot imagine all of the stuff that I've dealt with. In his case, it says that, he's a cutter. And I have known people in my life of whom have struggled with issues, in particular of issues of trying to identify themselves, to being able to find peace, of listening to people say that they are one thing and with themselves are thinking that they are something else, or are not imagining themselves conforming to the images that other people want them to have, that they cut themselves as a way of marking themselves, of trying to find the relief, of finding something that lets the world know of the hurt and the pain that they are going through. And I see that in this man, that as he comes to Jesus, he's gone through all of that stuff. He's gone through a community that has given up on him, a community that has pushed him away. And in this moment of where there's finally someone, and while the story says that the only thing that Jesus asked was his name, I believe in addressing the demons, that he has somehow said something that allowed that man to see that Jesus saw him in a way that other folk had not seen him, and saw him in a way that he could relate to, because I believe he saw himself in that way. That's why he asked, what are you going to do with me? I mean, are you going to do like all of the other, have you spoken to me, and have you removed those demons only to put some other demons on me? I mean, here was a man that I just see as one that was truly broken in that moment. And I think the challenge for us is to be aware of the kinds of conditions and the things that we're setting up. I would like to think that the church is a place where the people who are wrestling with those things and wrestling with their own identity could come. But as we have seen in a lot of stuff that's going on around us, is that the church has been a place that has been more in alignment with the oppressor and has used the same kind of language to produce the kinds of demons of saying that people are not this, and that we can't love them for this, we can't respect them for this, that if they were just this or that, then they would be acceptable. I mean, when we look at all of the language that probably filled in that, to the particular, as I think of the young man in Buffalo, as he was radicalized by all of the stuff that's going on, that a lot of the stuff that he was radicalized by has been stuff that has been sanctioned by the church, and that we have done it in the name of God. And so I think this passage really does challenge us today to step back and to look and to see how it is and where we are participating. Are we producing the legions, or are we being a place of where we can speak to them and to help them to be able to find the release and to let the demons that the world wants to put on them, to be able to let those go and to be able to find a community. I think it's important that in the last, and when he's getting ready, when Jesus leaves, because the people come in and the people are not happy. Clearly, in some of the texts, I think in Mark, it lets us know that they're unhappy because the pigs have died, and they attributed that to Jesus as being a result. That they don't care about this man. They don't care that he is now, as they said when they found him, that he was dressed, he was fully clothed, he was calm, he was in his right mind. No, that's not it. Maybe they were afraid. Maybe it was because of economic loss. Maybe because he was speaking a word of freedom, and they had already bought into the systems of oppression. And when we look at our prison system, we know a lot of people make money off of having people of whom we have pushed to the edge of society and call them demon possessed, and we house them. I don't know what was the reason, but I do know that it does challenge us to look at ourselves and to ask ourselves: are we the ones who are speaking hope to those who call themselves Legion? Or are we the ones who, in fact, are naming them Legion? And so I haven't completely figured out, where I'm going with that, because, I realize that, I'm talking to people, and I have a message for who we are. But I think that this is one that just lends itself to a much bigger audience than I probably will have on Sunday, and leads us to really challenge ourselves to see where we are in this story, and to ask ourselves, what is Jesus expecting of us in this moment, and in regards to how we're seeing and how we see people of whom we like to say are demon possessed. Today we may say they have some kind of mental, disorder or something, but we know that in this particular case, and I think that that this person was an outcast, and an outcast from the community. And I think that it does challenge us to look, because truly we have a lot of people in our community that are outcasts. Amen. Well, Trey, how are you doing? I got two things I want to talk to you tonight, but before I get into those two things, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I don't have any real complaints. I'm kind of battling a little congestion.
Yeah, I noticed you've been drinking a little tea lately.
Yeah, trying to do what I can to take natural precautions against it. But before you get into what you want to ask me, I listening to you, I have a question.
Okay. All right.
As it pertains to part of your illustration, and the forgiveness, right? Do you think when Jesus or God, however you want to put it,
Which one of the Trinity?
yeah. Do you think that's all encompassing, right? Do you think that the guys that were in Buffalo and in Texas, do you think ultimately they were forgiven for their actions? Or do you think it's something that, they had to take another route? I won't say heaven or hell or whatever, because, it's not up for me to decide. But do you think that ultimately they are forgiven?
Oh, yeah. I believe now, whether or not they, well, in the case of the one in Texas, I mean, of course, he died. He died in the midst, of the event. But the one that's in, the one in Buffalo, I mean, they're members of the family, they're members of the community that have. I don't think all people receive forgiveness. I think that there are some people, and he may be one of them, that doesn't feel like that he did anything of which he needed to be forgiven for. But I think God's grace and God's mercy puts us all at a place of whether or not, I think God extends that. The question is whether or not we want to receive it. I think that there are, and I do believe that there are some people of whom don't want forgiveness.
Yeah, man. And here's, I guess, my problem. I don't think that that's fair. It's not up for me to.
Yeah, that's grace.
Yeah,
that's grace.
Yeah.
That's grace and mercy. That sometimes, I mean, being able to receive the forgiveness. And I think sometimes there are those who just feel that what they have done has been so atrocious that they can't forgive themselves, and they question themselves as to why they responded the way they did. And then I do believe that there are just some people of whom have taken on evilness within their hearts that they are forgiven, but they don't, as I say, they don't accept the forgiveness. And I am, it's taken me a while, to get to that place. I want people to, I wanted people to, of whom it wronged me, to ask and to, and it's up to me. But then I realized that, that there were some things that, I've done. In particular, I think, a lot of the things that we do that we're forgiven for, we may not even know that, that it hurt the people or it did what, we needed to be forgiven for, to someone. Because we may have been, I don't think that, going back to the one in Buffalo, I really don't think he even thought of those people. He was just shooting targets. To them, they had no, I looked at some of the stuff that, that he wrote. He didn't look at them as being, as being human. as being something. I mean, it's almost like, do I, when I used to go fishing, did I regret catching a fish and, throwing them over in a bucket and taking his or her life? No, I'm just going to give me something to eat, because that's what is out there for me. They were there for him to shoot, to make his expression that he did not believe that black folk ought to even be here. And so for him to have said, boy, I'm sorry I killed your grandmother. I'm sorry I killed your mother. I'm sorry. And that, I just don't think that's something that's in him, And even for the fact of being able to say, I'm not guilty. I didn't kill anybody. Because I don't look at them as anything. It was like me running over, a possum in the road, It's just something I did.
Well, yeah. Just, the parallel illustration that you had about, Jesus doing his works before he was even asked, and, handling things that were not asked of him, and providing that kind of, I won't say judgment, but making that decision to provide that relief to that man, that troubled man. That's beyond my comprehension. And it seems like to me that's, as a Christian male, that has a little bit of, disbelief to me.
Well, but I'm gonna say, that you're looking at in the context of today and now. I know. I guess maybe you were in maybe the third grade, because you were at Cumberland, and there was a new student that came to the class, and he was kind of a weird kid. And I remember the teacher saying that when the kid came, that the other kids were kind of standoffish, that you kind of embraced the kid. I mean, not from a standpoint of I'm buddies, but I'm not, it's not me against him. I mean, because I don't know enough, as they were telling. And then I remember when you were at White's Creek, and there was a young lady that went to Hobson, and transferred and came to White's Creek.
Yeah.
And of course, was in special education and how people just kind of made, fun of those students. And I remember, she spoke to you, and you acknowledged her in that moment. And, people, and so like, wait a minute, this is Trey. He's kind of popular on campus, and he acknowledged, like some people like, well, now why are you speaking to her? Well, no, that's my church member. I mean, and so it was then the kind of acknowledgement. And I may have been in this situation, the people may have said, maybe let's use some contemporary kind of, situations. Maybe this guy that was there maybe had some effeminate ways, and they had called him all kinds of names, all kind of derogatory names I won't use, for this. But they did that to kind of get him responding, and so they called him the negative stuff. And so Jesus may have seen him and just acknowledged that, no, I'm not calling you that because everybody else is calling you that. And just some time to be able to have. I mean, I was, at places, where surrounded. I remember when we first went down to, Cheatham County, there were folk that, them niggas down their own thing, and because it was just kind of, and it was like, they were using language. Now, initially I just want to kind of be outraged, but then it was some other people said, "Wait a minute, look, they don't, I look back on that laughing. I remember one of them said, "Niggas don't like to be called niggas." It was like, okay, that's how we can talk about them, but you don't say that to them in that moment. And so I think it was probably Jesus having said to him and saying to those of whom he come with, he has his disciples, look, there's a brother. And now for him to have been a Gentile, which meant he wasn't Jewish, for him to have been homeless, which meant that he wasn't in middle class when he went. I mean, it's the same way, I think, Trey, that that I'm trying to remember. It wasn't, of how there were guys that kind of came through room in the inn that you knew from the church and that you saw at work when you working downtown, and they come by, and you kind of acknowledge. You didn't look and say, "Man, that's a homeless guy." That you just acknowledge, "Hey, what's happening?" And it's something of being acknowledged outside of the stereotype that can be liberating in that moment. And I think that's what happened to this guy.
Okay. All right. Now what you want to talk about?
Okay. Well, we'll do it quickly. This is we do this on Wednesday night, and so by the time that this airs on Saturday and getting ready for Sunday, they would have had a game. So I'm asking you on Wednesday night, will people be listening to this? And hurrying up and say, well, I need to hurry up and listen to this because there's going to be a Game 7 on Sunday, or not?
Yeah. I think there'll be a Game 7.
Be a Game 7.
I think Boston is going to win tomorrow. It's going to be kind of a close game, but I think foul trouble is going to play a major part in tomorrow's game. I think they're going to kind of press the issue they're going to kind of press the issue as to say, we're going to get some of the star players in foul trouble and get them off the court and provide themselves with a little bit of room to operate. Now, it's the first 8 minutes. Yeah. It's going to be a telltale sign, and that's been this way all finals. The first 8 minutes, whoever is winning after that generally has won the game. So.
Okay. Well, I wanted to see how that's going to be, so I can plan my my Sunday, so I can go ahead and get it out of the way. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is on this Sunday, it's Father's Day. Father's Day, and so I know that we don't do Father's Day anywhere close to how we do Mother's Day.
No.
It's just kind of another day. But do you have any plans?
No, man, I don't. I haven't planned anything for myself. Let's put it that way.
Well, that's part of why I asked on the thing. There are a lot of folk that are hoping that there is a Game 7.
Sure.
So they can say, well, for Game 7, we're going to watch the game.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's going to happen.
And see, man, with Brittany's birthday being on the 21st.
Yeah, two days after.
Right. It's not really any kind of relief.
Right.
I told her, she asked me what I want for Father's Day and all of that kind of stuff. And I was like, you can just give me something nice. I asked her for another roll of seamless paper for, which was, it's relatively inexpensive.
Right, yeah.
But, just to say I got something.
Right.
It's definitely going to be about her birthday for sure.
Yeah.
This is going to be a big one for her,
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right.
40. You know,
40.
Yeah, the big 4-0.
Big 4-0. Well, I know that if it were left up to Mason, I think Mason would truly get you a nice present, because he loves and respects his dad.
Yeah,
he
he
loves and respects his daddy. He
Sure
has.
does.
He listens when during the day when he didn't listen to me. I said, well, you want me to call your daddy? And it's like, okay, no, I don't want you to call daddy, because you call daddy, I got to do something. But it just kind of, and even it was yesterday. He was messing with a box, and I said, Mason, I don't think you're supposed to have that box. He said, yes, my box. I said, no, I don't think it's your box. And so then he said, call daddy. And so we called, and you then on Facebook,
FaceTime.
FaceTime, you looked and you were like, Mason, that's not your, and he then kind of handed it to me like, no, you had that box. Yeah. And so he kind of had it to me. So then later when Brittany came home, he had gotten the box again, and Brittany was like, what are you doing with my box? And I said, Mason, what'd your daddy say? And then he handed it back to me. It's like, you gave it. Don't be blaming. Don't be blaming on this.
Yeah.
But nah,
and you know what?
He respects you. He respects you.
Well, you know what? I think that is from the way I've been with him since he's been here.
Yeah.
Having a sense of boundary.
Yeah.
Between him and I, that there are certain things that his mom and you allow him to do that I do not.
Right.
And so when I'm interacting with Mason, I use kind of an even kind of tone, and I try to interact with him the same way all the time.
Right.
And so when I am giving him instruction and I'm explaining to him that this is right or this is wrong or this is what you need to do, what you don't need to do, that he understands that if I'm saying that, then there is some type of boundary that I have crossed.
Right.
And, from him doing and interacting with you and his mom, it's like Brittany will say, you don't need to do that. And he doesn't respond in the same way that if I say the same thing. And I think it's, him having that understanding that, you know what, I bet not, if he's saying do this or do that, it might be in my best interest to listen to him in this moment.
And I think that is so important. And some of the stories that, we've been listening to, going back to what we were previously talking to, some of these folk that are now doing certain stuff had no one that could help them establish boundaries.
Right.
And when you're just doing anything, and then when you have all of this kind of, public discussion, particularly around guns, I'm 18, I can do this, I can do that, when there's been nobody that has held them in check. I mean, you've been, from the time you have been, walking around, nobody has held you in check.
Right.
And then for somebody then to come in, you don't have those boundaries. You don't think that somehow there are consequences to the actions that you do. That, if I shoot somebody, well, it's kind of like on television, they'll be in another series next week. But that's not the reality that we have. And there's something about boundaries that says that there are realities that we have to deal with. And so I do appreciate that Mason understands that, maybe he doesn't get them from me, but I can at least say,
right.
I'll call your daddy. I know who the boundary setter is.
You're right. Yeah. And so, you know what? I think that is, a kind of a learned thing, or kind of the normal thing for the father to be, the disciplinarian in most, dynamics in that way. Now, speaking from you and mom, I mean, there were times that, mom didn't have to say, "I'm gonna call your daddy,"
Right.
right? Because I mean, she was able to be that disciplinarian in that moment.
Right. Yeah.
But then there were other times when she would say, "Oh, wait till your daddy gets home." After I've done what I'm gonna do, just wait, wait, because I'm gonna. Or there were times that I've done something, and it's like, I'm not even gonna tell your daddy, And so, saying that to say that it doesn't need to be progressed to that level, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if that is something just from the black culture, or if that's something that kind of translates through different cultures and different types of people. But yeah, man, I mean, call daddy is a thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I have known, in particular, people of whom had strong disciplinarians, parents, and not all the time was it the male. Sometimes it was, it was the mother in the relationship. But it was always helpful when they at least had one. And sometimes it wasn't even the parents. Sometimes it may have been
grandmama.
A grandmama. That, oh no, you're not coming in here with, they might have been busy doing what they, parents might not be paying attention, but I'm paying attention to you, and so we need that. And I think that part of what, we look at, in particular in the context of this faith community. I mean, we value women, and when we talk about Mother's Day, we talk about mothers who are not maybe biological mothers, but who take on the mothering and nurturing role. And I think that on this day, on Father's Day, that we look at those of whom are in our lives that help us to establish the boundaries, that help us define the relationships that are based upon love. And Mason, doesn't do it because he is fearful of you. He does it because he loves you.
Yeah.
And he knows you love him. So you've established it, and that's a part of the relationship. And I think if we could get to that place, and we had more people who were experiencing those kind of relationships, then we could have happy Father's Day, happy Mother's Day, happy days are here again, just because we have so many people who are acting out of that. And so, once again, I go back to this story, and I mean, I think that's, helps me where I may go. All right. I want to thank you for spending some time with us on this Father's Day weekend. Not only is it Father's Day, but it is also Juneteenth. Actually, Juneteenth is on Sunday. I think federal government observes it probably on Monday. But regardless of when you do, I hope you do spend some time this weekend just reflecting on what that means and what that celebration is all about. Hope that you will also be in prayer. I said we're talking about Father's Day, and one of our prayers is for a father who is gravely ill, and so I ask that you be in prayer for that. And then for another father of whom we will be celebrating his life on Saturday. So just be in prayer for all of the people of whom are hurting and for whom it is a difficult time. And then we also pray for those of whom are experiencing great joy. But I will be experiencing joy because you spent some time with me.